Shivadas, and today here I'm going to show the tutorial of roll dice game. So before getting to the code, one must know about the game and its rules. So the rules of this game are: each turn a player repeatedly rolls a dice until either a 1 is rolled or the player decides to hold. If the player rolls a 1, they score nothing and it becomes the next player's turn. If the player rolls any other number, it is added to their turn total and the player's turns continues. If a player chooses to hold, then their turn total is added to their global score and it becomes next player's turn. So like this, the player who reaches 100 first will be the winner. So as you can see here, by clicking the roll dice, the current score will be added here, and if the player wants to hold the game, that is hold, then that 6 point will be added to his turn total. So like this, the player to reach 100 will win the game. Now let's move to the code. So we have to declare the variables that we are going to use in our app.js. So the corresponding variables we are using here are: so here scores are used for the global score, round score is used for the scores that we have got in each round, and active player is to indicate which player is active at that time, and game playing is used to know that if the game is being played or not. Now we are giving a function init. So I will tell you why we have using this function, because we should have to write this code in the below section. So now let's move to the next code. That is, as you can see that in our game there are 3 buttons: roll dice, hold, and new game. So we have to write function of each button. So let's start with the first button, that is button hold. So here document.query selector. Here the query selector will select the first element that matches the CSS. Here you can see that dot button hold. I have written this corresponding style for this element in the style CSS. As you can see here, button hold. If I have written more than 2 styles for the same element, that is one more style for the same element button hold, then the CSS will select the first one. So for that I have written the document.query selector of button hold. Now we have to give the function by clicking that hold button. That is, for that we use add event listener click comma function. Here add event listener will listen what the event is to be occurred. Here the event is the click function and the corresponding function that has to be performed by clicking the button. So as you can see that in our game, what happens when we click a hold button? For example, by clicking the hold button, the round score is added to the global score. As you can see that the current score is 9. So by clicking the hold button, the player will get the global score. So for that we have to write the function corresponding to that click. So first we have to check that whether the game is being played or not. So we give the if condition, and then as I have said that the round score will be added to the global score. So for that, so here the round score is added to the score of that active player. Now we have to display the global score of that current player. So we give this command, that is, here as you can see that I have given the query selector again for the element score of active player. As you can see that in my CSS I have given the corresponding CSS for the player hyphen score. So that command I have given here, that is score plus the active player which is being active at that time, and dot text content. So the text content must be appear, that is the as you can see that here the global score is being shown. So for that, we have to set that global score has given in this command, that is text.content must be scores of active player. So for that, I have given the score. Now, the next thing to see by clicking the button hold is that if the player win or not. As you can see that by clicking the hold button, the player 2 wins. So the player 2's name must be changed to winner, and the dice shown in the figure must be hidden, and the global score is shown as 104, or the total score that the player won. So we have to write that function also. For that, okay, here we have checked that the global score is of the active player is greater than or equal to 0, and if it is 0, then again we use documented query selector to select the first element that matches the name plus active player. You can see here the name of that active player, this CSS command. So it will select the CSS command that we are going to use, and then it will change the text content of that particular player to winner, as I have shown in the figure. Also, we have to select the dice image to none. For that, we have written document.query selector to select the corresponding CSS of dot dice element that I have given in the style CSS floor. You can see that I have given corresponding style for dot style element. So we have to set that CSS to none. So for that, we have given document.query selector to style.display is equal to none. As you can see in the image that there is no image of dice here, no style for that dice here. So now we will see the players, the query selector for player plus active plus panel. So I have given the corresponding style sheet here also. So you can see that player 0 or player 1. So for that, we will give it in our app.js as we will select that corresponding CSS, plus we will have to add the CSS that we have given in the element called winner. For that, we have used .class.add of winner. It will add the CSS that we have written with the element winner, as in the style sheet. You can see here I have given a corresponding background color for the winner. So we have to add that to our query selector. So that to our player 0 panel. So for that, we have done this, and the next player, and also we have to remove the uh, active CSS that we have given for each player, as shown in this as in this style.css. And since I have given the style for both winner and active element in the CSS as same, so it will not make much difference. And if you want to give the different styles for both winner and active, you can do that. Now, so we have to write the else part of this if, that is, if the player does not want, then, so here I have given a function called next player, because if the player does not want, then by clicking the hold button, the turn will goes to the next player. So now we have to write the next player function. So that is function next player. So first we have to check that which player was active before, or which player clicked the button hold. So for that, we will check that if the active player is equal to 0, that is, here the active player equal to 0 means that it was the player of first player. So we have to set that to player 2, that is active player is equal to 1. Here I have used 0 for the player 1 and 1 for the player 2. So by using this command, we can see that which player was active and which player clicked the button hold. After that, we have to set the round score of each player to 0, or the corresponding player that is going to be playing to 0. And also we have to set all the current score of both the players to 0, and we have to set all the CSS style to active. That is, here you can see that round score is set to 0, and by giving this command, that is document.getElement by id, it will returns the element that is corresponded to the id. So here the id is current -0, and I have given the corresponding style in CSS for that. As you can see here, current label. So it will return the corresponding CSS for that, and we have to set the text content of both the current both the round score of each player. As in the game, you can see that by clicking the hold button, you can see that the current score of both player will be set to 0. So for that, we will give the command. Now we have to select the query selector for both player panel, and we have used here instead of add or remove, we have used toggle. So here toggle means it will stimulate between add or remove. So it will either add the CSS for active or either remove the CSS for active for both players. And also we can see that by clicking the hold button, the image display is also none. So for the image display of dice is also none. So for that we have given that dice is equal to display is equal to none. Now, so the function of button hold is completed. So I will close the closing brace. And now we have to write the function for button roll dice. For that we will use the same command as we have used for button hold. That is document.query selector of element button roll. You can see that in the style CSS button roll. Okay, and we have also given the add event listener, because by clicking that button we have to perform certain function. And now we will write what the certain function is. So as you can see in this game, by clicking the roll dice, a random number in the dice will display. So we have to give the corresponding code for that. Also that the round score is being added for that player, that is 9 sorry 4 9, etc. So the round score is being added, and the random number on the dice is being displayed. So we have to give this function to our code. So now we will give that function. So as given below, as given above, we have to first check whether the game is being playing or not. So we will give if game playing. Then we have to display random number on the screen. For that we will use a variable called dice, and is equal to mat.floor into mat.random. Here the mat.random will produce the random numbers, and to make sure that it is a decimal number instead of a floating point, we will give mat.floor. So by giving this command, the random number will be stored in variable dice. Now the next task is to give the image of the corresponding dice. So for that we will give another variable called dice dom, and we will select the query selector dot dice that we have given in our CSS file, and then we will display the corresponding image of that dice. I have given in this format because I have stored all the images like this, dice-1.png. So dice plus the dice which is being displayed plus the png. Okay. Now after this, we also have to check that whether the dice number is 1 or not. As you can see here, if the dice is 1, then there will be no display of the dice image, and similarly the play will turn to the next player. So we have to write the code for that also. For that, we will use, that is, we will check that if the dice is not equal to 1, that is, if the dice is not equal to 1, then the round score will be added. After adding the round score, we will have to display it in our game. So for that, we will use document.currentSelector plus active.textContent is equal to round score. And you can see that by uh, adding the round score, it will be displayed in the practice players global score. So uh, we have also given the corresponding style for that in our style sheet. That is, you can see here player current score. I have given a particular font for that, so the document query selector will select that CSS and show it. Now we have to do the function for button new game. So for that, we will give the same command as we have given before, that is query selector for button new, and the corresponding style sheet for button new will be here, as you can see that. Now I have given, instead of function, the function which we have created before, that is init of. So we will write the corresponding function for that here. So as we know that by clicking the new game function, all the scores, all the styles, everything will be resetted. So for that, we will do it in our init function. Here, the scores, that is the global score for both player, will be set to 0, and active player is equal to set to 0, that is the first player will play the game. Then the round score for that player will be set to 0, and the game playing variable will be true because the game is going to be played. Now, as you can see that by clicking a new game, there will be no display of the dice. So we have to set the display of the dice to none. That is document.querySelector for the CSS which I have written in dice element to 0. So we have to set it equal to none. Now here in the game, by clicking the new button, you can see that the scores of both the player is same 0. So we have to set that. That is, we will give document.querySelector, get element by ID, and we will set the text content for both score of that players to 0. Similarly, we can see here that the current score of both players are set to 0. So we have to give the corresponding functions for that also. So we have to set the current score to 0. So that for that we will give this command. Now we have to set the player's name to player 1 and player 2. As you can see that when the player wins, the player 2's name will change to player winner, that is winner. So we have to reset it back to player 1 and player 2. So for that we will give, so here get element by ID will return the element, the CSS selector with element name 0, and I have given it in the CSS file, that is here player name. So for both the players, that is for player 0, that is player 1, it will set the text content will be set to player 1, and player 2, that is name equal name hyphen 1 to player 2. For that we will use this command. Now we will also remove the styles which we have given to the winner or the active element. So for that we will use this for both the players. That is the CSS in winner and active is being removed by using classlist.remove. And now we have to give the first player the style of active, because it will be the player once play to once play will be first. So we will set the player once CSS to active because the player 1 will be active at that time. So this is how the game works by using this JavaScript. to make this game, and if you want the code for this game, I have put it in my GitHub repository, and the link for that will be this. So by going through this link, you can get all the codes and all the images that I have used here. So I hope you enjoyed the video. Thank you.